Welcome to the Springs Are Everywhere podcast, a production of SMI, the Spring Manufacturers Institute. I'm your host, Gary McCoy, Executive Director of SMI. Our podcast highlights important issues facing manufacturers and gives you a brief glimpse of products that contain springs. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate us, and like us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. This special edition features my conversation with Dan Sebastian. Dan's a former SMI president and a longtime columnist for Springs Magazine as the Dean of Springs. Dan details his long industry career, along with the changes that have taken place and what he sees as the future ahead. Dan wrote his farewell column in the spring issue of Springs Magazine, and a special tribute to Dan will be featured in the summer issue. The Springs Are Everywhere podcast is brought to you in part by our platinum sponsor, Gibbs Interwire. It's my pleasure to welcome Dan Sebastian to the Springs Are Everywhere podcast. I've worked with Dan for a number of years in my various roles at SMI, and it's an honor to have him join the program. Dan is the only SMI president to serve a 3-year term from 2005 to 2008. He recently wrote his last Dean of Springs column for Springs Magazine, Time to Pass the Torch. He served for a number of years as a technical advisor for SMI as well. And I think he's well known for blending his practical advice on technical and management issues. Dan, it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you, Gary. Might give you a little commentary here. There was someone else that served more than 3 years, but that was in 1950.
Okay. So you're the more modern version of
the modern version
of the 3-year term. Okay. So Dan, you grew up in Connecticut. You attended a local technical college. You majored in metallurgy with a minor in mechanical engineering. You went on to earn a degree in metallurgy from Lehigh University. And I have to say, you have a deep understanding of the industry because you spent a lot of your career working at Associated Spring and later at MW Industries. Just give me some of the brief highlights of your time at those two companies.
Well, it was an interesting start. I began my career totally by accident, was desperate for a summer internship, and walked into the headquarters of Associated Spring, who promptly turned me down, and walked back to my home in Bristol, where my mother was very excited to say that Barnes's had just called, and they wanted to interview me immediately. And I said, they just turned me down. She said, put it on. I put on my only sport coat, my only shirt and tie I owned, went down to the bottom of the hill where headquarters were at, and proceeded to have about an hour-long interview with the director of research, a gentleman by the name of Perry Smith. And at the end of the interview, he looked over and said, there's a pin on your lapel. What is it? I said, it's an eagle. And he said, why? And I said, because I was an Eagle Scout. He looked at me, said, so was I, you have the job. And that began my career. It's awesome. Possibly a lesson to all those aspiring young Eagle Scouts out there that there is a fraternity that tends to take care of each other. But I started at the Research and Development Center, and after about 18 months, I was called in, and they asked me if I would go on their management development program. And I said, no, I'd rather be an engineer. And they said, no, we think you're going to be a manager. And so they sent me on my way. After completing that program and working in a couple of other capacities, both at the Bristol Spring Division and at the Research Center, I moved to Mattoon, Illinois. And after a short period of time, I became the chief engineer there, and then went on to head up the entire technical service unit, and then went on and became the manager of manufacturing. And in 1980, I was promoted to be the general manager. And little did I realize that I had already accumulated a bit of a reputation at Associated as to be the fix-it guy. Because when I went to the plant in Illinois, it was kind of the stepchild of the company. And when I left, we were lucky enough to be one of the leading profit providers at there. And they sent me up to their plant in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which historically had been the most profitable plant in all of Associated Spring. But when I got there, it was quite away from that. And I was able to put together a team of folks up there. And part of the focus that we did, and I consider it very important, is we focused in fairly quickly on the use of quality systems. And from that point on, we made that a hallmark in any place I worked at, is to focus on and understand the number one issue in this business is to make sure that the customer gets the part that he wants on time, and that there's no question about its performance because it's going to meet all the specifications. After a few years of doing that there, Barnes Group senior management came to me and said we need to fix it. The plant in Ann Arbor was in a very old location, but very prime. It was in the parking lot of the University of Michigan football stadium. Great location, rummy plant, physical facilities. And so put another team together. We designed a world-class manufacturing facility, moved it about 7.5 miles from Ann Arbor, and had a unique record. We had some 60 plus consecutive months of month over month productivity improvements in terms of regaining control of the manufacturing process and returning to the shareholders of Barnes Group the profits that they had expected. Toward that end of that period, there were a lot of changes going on at Associated, and it was time for me to move on. And I moved to Logansport, to the manufacturing facility there, which it had been historically a division of Rockwell International, been taken private. I got there, and suddenly I was back to where I seemed to get all over the place. The company was in less than good financial shape, had been just taken private, and it was had historically been run in the years at Rockwell to a very accounting oriented thing, and they forgot their way in what it took to make springs. And so we put a team together of folks that straightened out the manufacturing and the fundamentals of spring. The income returned, and in 1995 we were sold off to our second private equity owner. In this case, it was a company out of St. Louis, who said, "Do you want to grow?" And I said, "Well, we're ready." And we'd put a great team together, people like Jim Callaghan, guy by the name of Ron Orr, and eventually a series of other former Associated Spring guys like Dan Bishop, all came to join at MW and helped us rebuild the company. And when I left to retire in 2011, MW was the largest manufacturer in all of North America, significantly exceeding Associated Springs North American sales. So a lot of different things, a lot of opportunities.
And looking back at MW, what were some of the specific strategies you and your team implemented to do the turnaround and integrate the various plants that you acquired over the years?
Well, first at Logansport, it was basically getting back to fundamentals, was understanding what you needed to do from a manufacturing and a quality standpoint to give the customers what they needed and to outperform, and also to be able to go in and offer unique solutions to very complex problems. There were a couple of them over that were uh, we implemented that helped grow the company, and that was using both the quality and fundamental procedures. In one case, we had a very tiny compression spring that we were making that helped control the governor in the diesel engine. And it was launched into production, and immediately they were having failures all over the world, and they needed help. And we went in, and our team analyzed the problem, figured out the fundamental mistakes that were being made, and then had to invent a way to shot peen very tiny springs. But we were able to pull that off, and that then became the base load engine for this manufacturer for many years to come. In another case, was a transmission manufacturer, and they were having trouble with the rings that separated the different gears in their transmission. And again, it was bringing that back, deciding and understanding where the problem was, using basic statistical training to troubleshoot the thing, and then applying the spring principles. This was a case, and again, in that we were able to invent a process where we were able to shot peen those rings, and took the life from questionable to when they finally finished testing, they had nearly 100% reliability at over 300,000 miles.
Wow.
So it was a lot of things like that. After we got Logansport where it needed to be, then the process, which started under Harbor Group, set us out to see if we could find some spring companies that would add to the growth. And in fact, the very first company we bought was in Chicago, and was Automatic Spring in Chicago. And we brought them on board, and they brought a unique thing. Logansport itself did not have a lot of automotive type business, so we were not exposed to the disciplines in the quality and engineering that the automotive world takes, and our folks at Automatic did. And so we stole some ideas from them, and then implemented some of our basic manufacturing principles. And with that, we were off to the races. Each additional plant that we subsequently acquired, we did the same thing. We would go in, find the things that we liked the most that were either something we weren't doing or should have been doing, and took that technology and then spread it across all the other plants within it. And so over time, we were able to create a unified manufacturing team. One of the things we did on a regular basis is at least once a year, all of the general managers from all the plants would get together and exchange their successes and their failures amongst the other general managers, which would then we could use the entire team then to go forward and improve everything that was going on.
I'll be back with more from Dan Sebastian after this short break.
Gibbs Interwire, North America's largest spring wire distributor, now offers precision draw, high performance alloy wire through our partnership with Alloy Specialty Metals. With over 125 alloys, our goal is to deliver exactly what you need precisely when and where you need it. We're committed to bringing you simpler sourcing with the highest quality results tailored to your requirements. As a longtime supporter of SMI's mission to inform the spring industry, Gibbs Interwire is proud to be the platinum sponsor of the Springs Are Everywhere podcast. For your quote today, call Gibbs Interwire at 800-800-4422 or visit us at gibbswire.com.
And what are some of the key technological advancements or innovations that you've witnessed in the spring industry, and how have they impacted both the manufacturing process and product quality?
Wow.
I know it's
a
a
lot,
lot.
a lot. But basically, fundamentally, uh, when I started, all of the manufacturing was done on basic mechanical machines, which translated through gears and cams the information to the wire that was passing through it to create the spring. And for me, the very first revolution was the fact that we took something that had once been used throughout America and got lost. And that is, during the Second World War, one of the great successes of the American and Allied troops around the world that used American made equipment was the incredible reliability of our equipment. And that came from a couple of engineers and quality people out of Western Electric that used quality principles to analyze the ability to meet the specifications of the parts. And they called it statistical quality control. That went on to get a whole bunch of other names to make people feel better. But it's usually using fundamental statistics to control the manufacturing process. And that really was the introduction that made it easier for the next great introduction, which was the first computer controlled coiling machines. And here it was, again, another bit of a revolution. It started on relatively small machines, but as the wire size got bigger, the technology wasn't there to be able to do that. And with the assistance, whether they knew it or not, from the U.S. military, the ability to control hydraulics with computers was being introduced. And so most of the first CNC machines that had any size to them used computer controlled hydraulics to translate and make the springs, which was a great leap forward because it allowed us to have many more variables in controlling the manufacturing process. Then pretty soon the technology caught up with it, and we got very sophisticated servo motors and that. And today, that whole revolution is about ready to take its next big step, and that is in the world of AI. Because now, with some of the fundamentals that are based in AI, we're able to use the mathematics of AI to hook up with the electronics and to control all kinds of motions on machines that manufacture springs and wire forms and force slides and the like.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And Dan, let me just ask you, given your extensive experience, industry knowledge, What advice would you have for spring manufacturers looking to adapt to changing market conditions and customer demands?
It all goes back to square one. And first, you have to understand the technical aspects of the springs, what it takes from that. And it's more than the computer software that SMI sells to be able to manufacture a spring. It's understanding what it means and how to use it properly. And with that, then you have to make sure that your plant, your manufacturing plant, is under control from a statistical basis, that you're producing the parts at the highest level quality possible. Now, again, one of the neat things that's come out of the world of the computerization of our equipment is the feedback loops, in which electronically we're able to tell the machine when it's going outside the variables and allow the machine to self-correct and keep us well within the specifications demanded by the customers. And then from young people that are starting, I would encourage them all to do what my friends had associated when I first started in their training program many, many years ago. That was they believed you couldn't be a manager unless you understood everything. And we spent 6 months and we worked in every single department of the company. We had to spend time in accounting, which was incredibly painful. But everything, human resources, all the manufacturing disciplines, every department, the coiling department, the punch press, the force slide. And so you need to take that time period to understand everything that you do within the confines of your business in order to be able to make the appropriate decisions that you're going to later make from a management perspective, whether it's a management in the technology side or a management in the overall business principles.
Dan, boy, we could go a long time. There's a lot of great things I'd love to ask you, but I'm just going to throw one more to you. And how did the Dean of Springs name come about?
It was one of the private equity firms we had was out actively marketing the company. And you can appreciate that when you go to most bankers and investment people and you say, we've got a great spring company. And the first thing the guy goes, water is water. And then they say, no, 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 no. We're not talking that kind of spring. We're talking mechanical springs, which then would say, well, is there a difference between the spring in the ballpoint pen and the one in my bed? And so they were having trouble explaining the importance of the technology in our business and why it was important in its relationship with our customer. And at the time, I think I was partway through the chairs. I don't think I had become president of SMI yet, but was about to be. And so they advertised the company as being run by the Dean of Springs, the guy that knew everything you could think of about springs, which obviously we know is a gross exaggeration, but it was what they used as their sales pitch. And everybody thought it was funny. And so the tag stuck whether I liked it or not.
Yeah. So you were never an academic dean, I guess that's the point.
That's correct.
Well, Dan, on behalf of SMI, I just want to say thank you for all the years you've served our members through your writing, through your consultation, and your leadership. You spent a lot of time in the technical committee, then to the board of directors, and then obviously on to the executive committee and then to be president. So thank you so much, Dan.
Well, it was my honor to do so, and I wish everyone in SMI the best possible growth, and I'm very excited about the direction of our country as we begin to seriously considering reshoring, because as an industry, we lost a lot of business, not necessarily from outside sources shipping in, but more from our customers taking their entire products to foreign companies and then getting the springs from the local markets. So as we begin to resource, I hope that it creates great opportunities for other members in the spring world to bring us back to where we were in the 60s and 70s.
Well, Dan, thanks for your time today. And folks, there'll be an article about Dan in the next issue of Springs Magazine, and you'll get to hear more of his good wisdom in those pages. Thanks again, Dan.
Very good. Thank you very much, Gary. Good luck.
In addition to Gibbs Interwire, the Springs Are Everywhere podcast has been made possible by the generous support of our silver sponsor, Automated Industrial Motion. AIM is a world-class leader in the design, manufacture, and service of spring coiling machines and wire forming equipment. You can learn more at aimcoil.com.
Thank you for joining us for the Springs Are Everywhere podcast. I want to thank my special guest, Dan Sebastian, for joining the program today. You can learn more about SMI at smihq.org. Be sure to subscribe, rate us, and like us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This program would not be possible without the generous support of our platinum sponsor, Gibbs Interwire, and our silver sponsor, Automated Industrial Motion.
Did you know NASA uses specially designed springs in spacecrafts to deploy solar panels, assist with shock absorption, and operate intricate mechanical systems in zero gravity? Springs used in space applications are specially designed to withstand extreme conditions like zero gravity, vacuum, radiation, and dramatic temperature swings. A variety of springs are utilized, such as compression springs, which are used to deploy mechanisms like solar panels and for shock absorption during launch and landing. You'll also find aerospace engineers deploying torsion, extension, constant force, and disc springs along with wave and spiral springs. Springs are everywhere, sometimes closer than you think, and sometimes even in space.